Rugby is the greatest sport in the world, and not just because it's such a great game, but because of the great people that play the game. And you won't find two greater people than Jeff Simon and Sean Lipman. And the team that they've got and all the work that they put into it shows just how much they love this game. And I just want to tell you one little story. Jeff mentioned that I was here in Chicago. One of the reasons I live here in Chicago. But after I played 2 times in the Maccabiah Games, I traveled around the States and I went to Madison, Wisconsin. And I was looking for work, couldn't find work. And I walked down State Street, those of you know Madison, went to knock on a bar, went inside. I said, I'm looking for a job. They said, sorry, no jobs. I said, you know, by the way, do you know where the rugby club is? So they said, why, you're a rugby player? So I said, sure. So he said, well, why didn't you tell me? So within 5 minutes, I had a job, I had a place to stay, and I was on the rugby team. That's what rugby players do for each other all around the world. I spent 6 weeks in Madison, had some of the best rugby of my life, drank more beer than I ever drank in my life before. But we all feel a camaraderie towards fellow rugby players. But what those of you who are going to be fortunate enough to make it onto the Maccabiah team, it's a camaraderie that's completely different. And like Jeff said, I didn't grow up Orthodox. In fact, I was the only Jew on the rugby team. Most of my friends were not Jewish. I grew up in South Africa. Rugby was my religion. I played when I was 8 years old. And I played Western Province under 20. In fact, Sean and I played against each other at one of the greatest stadiums in the world in Johannesburg. He was playing Transvaal under 20. I was playing Province under 20. And then the next year we played together and we won the gold medal. I want to show you. I'm going to pass this around. This is what you guys are playing for. You're playing for gold. I won 2 gold medals, one in 1985 and one in 1989. I'll pass it around just so that you guys can feel a little bit about what you're playing for. But what I want to tell you is that every single one of you that's in the room, whether you make it to the team or whether you don't, whether you make it to Israel or not, you guys are all winners because you come together as Jews to play a great game and to try and get into a team that's going to go to Israel. Let me just ask you a question. How many of you guys have been to Israel? Right,
oh wow, that's big.
Been to Israel. When I went in 1985, I wasn't going because I wanted to go to Israel. In fact, another time I'll tell you a story how I really wanted to go to America. I was an exchange student, played in Montana, played football in Montana. I was a sportsman. All I wanted to do, my greatest dream was to represent my country and to win the gold medal in the Maccabiah Games. And I was very fortunate at the peak of my rugby career, playing Province under 20, was a year before the Maccabiah Games. And what I want to tell you is this, that for those of you who've never been to Israel, and those of you who do go, there's no way of explaining what that trip is going to do for you, because everybody has a different experience. Whether you're religious or not, going to Israel is like going home. And it touches something inside of you that you can't explain. And it's going to have an impact on each and every one of your lives. So whether you make the team or not, I encourage you to go to Israel next year. Just go around, watch the games. It's such a special place. I work now on college campuses around the country, around Illinois. And I have to tell you, Israel does not have a good name on college campuses. In fact, it doesn't have a good name around the world. When you go to Israel, you become an ambassador for that country. And we need ambassadors. We need people to tell people what a great country it is, the enormous sacrifices people make so that you guys can go play in the Maccabiah Games. I mean, if you think about it, they're surrounded by enemies. They're almost threatened with a nuclear war, and they are putting on the Maccabiah Games for thousands of people around the world to come and play rugby in safety in the country. The least you can do is be an advocate and ambassador for them. And the last thing I want to just leave you with is this. You know, when I speak to college students on campuses, speak to young professionals, I tell them, you know, the biggest difference in my life from going to those games in 1985, I was not a religious person. I grew up fairly traditional in South Africa. We won the gold medal. I ended up coming back, getting involved in student Jewish activism on campus when Israel was under a lot of pressure because of its ties to South Africa. And I'm guessing that many of you who do go will come back and get involved somehow, just like Jeff did in the Maccabiah Games. Jordan Weinstein, who's now almost the head of the Maccabiah Sports Association. Somehow you're going to get more involved. Eventually I ended up moving to Israel. I lived in Israel for 6 years. That's where I became a rabbi, and I wanted to give something back. I came to the States and I worked with college students. But when I speak to the students and I tell them that my life is different now than what it was 25 years ago, I tell them it's not that I wear one of these things or that I wear tzitzis or I keep kosher or I keep Shabbat. And I tell them one story, and it goes like this, that when I was playing for UCT, University of Cape Town under 20, when they had the selectors selecting the team for the Western Province under 20, and I was playing against a much, much better rugby player, obviously as wing, my coach came up to me and gave me a little tap on the behind. And he said to me, Zev, the selectors are here. And somehow I lifted the game and I was selected for Province under 20, and then the next year I was selected for the South African Maccabiah team. But through a series of events for many years after that, only many years later did I look back and I saw that that little tap on the behind wasn't just for me a little tap. There was a bigger tap that was coming from somewhere that I believe was someone or some being that was looking after me. Because there was no other way that I was going to get to Israel other than playing for the South African Maccabiah team. And all I can say to you is that I'm not going to be able to prove it to you. I can't prove to you that life is more than just a whole series of coincidences. I believe that the fact that every single one of you is in this room tonight is not a coincidence. Whether you get on the team or not, it's not a coincidence that you're sitting in this room, that you're meeting the people that you're meeting. And that's why I made an effort to come here tonight, because I hope that I'll stay in contact. I've met already a couple of guys. You can find me on Facebook. I'd love to. I wish I could spend an hour telling you more of the stories. But what I want to encourage you all is make the most of your trip to Israel. Rugby is the greatest game. It's a physical game. People can't believe that, when you tell them that you play the game. But when you get to Israel, you're going to see that it's much more than a physical game. There's something much, much deeper, and it's going to touch you in a deeper way, and it might affect you for the rest of your life in ways that you can't even imagine right now. So I want to end up by just giving you guys a blessing. It's Rosh Hashanah coming up in about 10 days' time. That you should all have a healthy year. Those of you who got injuries should get healed, and you shouldn't have any more injuries. You should play the best rugby that you've ever played. Get into the team, make it to Israel, and as long as you're not playing against South Africa in the Gold Medal game, I'll be backing you guys. In fact, I hope to be there at one or two of the games. I'm normally in Israel every 6 months. So I want to just give you all a blessing. You should have a healthy, happy year. Enjoy Israel. Tell people about Israel. And I hope to see you guys next year in Jerusalem.